Silence is understanding. Let me explain. So it is currently February 25th, 2026, and this is just a topic that has been on my mind, I've been thinking about, and it is something that I've written about. It is a topic that I would like to discuss, I would like to read off of. I think it's pretty fun topic to think about, honestly, and especially if you begin to understand it a little more through personal experience, or even just being aware of it as you are going through the understanding steps along the way. So why don't we start? Thanks for listening. I believe that there is not always a need for a verbal response, especially if it ramps up your emotions in a negative way, sometimes even positively, but let us think about more on the negative emotion side of things. So specifically anger or disagreement, those topics I feel are typically almost asking for an argument, or just more so you're kind of revving your own engine up to egg someone or your own self on a little bit. And if you do not seek to understand another person's choices, what do you expect to be the turnout? I guess that is an honest question to ask yourself. What do you expect to turn out if you do not wish to understand or begin to understand? Even if you feel passionately, perhaps on some occasions, it could be more rewarding to yourself to smile and just observe and listen in. I feel like that would be more of a larger social circle environment. You know, if you are having a one-on-one conversation with someone, or even in just a small group, and they are talking to you and you just sit there smiling, maybe you should respond. You know, this is more so just like in a larger social gathering. So let us use that as the imagery aspect there. But yes, you should respond if you are connecting personally or in a small group conversation, because that is the thrill of the whole understanding aspect. So emotions, thoughts, and words are all things that take time to understand. So you should use that time. Even a brief second of silence before you speak can add more weight to what your next words will be. Not all conversation is meant to be back and forth constantly. It should develop. Pauses when speaking indicates a great conversation, in my opinion. At least a very thoughtful one, in that case. Very thought-provoking. For that is when you are truly thinking and letting yourself and the other person time to process and understand. Because there really is a difference in meaning when you were just talking to someone. Like, let's use roommates for an example. You guys both just wake up and you're just like, hey, how you doing? Oh, how's your day? You know, how'd you sleep? You know, those are kind of just riff-raff conversations, you know, but maybe there is something very specific. You know, maybe something happened at work, or they are taking up an activity that is something that they feel passionately about, or just something that's been on their mind, and you could tell that they want to conversate with you because the signs are all there. The signs are all there. They're making eye contact, you know, they're using body language more often, and even just the way they express themselves is much more enunciated and expressive. So yes, there is much to take from a conversation just from observing. You know, it doesn't have to be fully in the words that you're using, but more so in the silence that you are watching with. That is pretty much all those are just a few thoughts I had on the topic. The ones I mainly wanted to brief about. I think it's pretty fun to think about, honestly. You know, if there is a topic like that, or even just that topic itself that you would like to write about or just think about, I highly encourage it, because it is it's thought-provoking, it's good for your mind. I think it's good for your soul too, to be able to think about these things in depth. It's pretty much all for this video. Maybe I'll just kind of talk about the rest of my nights. I'm going to get Chipotle. I'm going to finish up the Beast Game Season 2 tonight. Because me and my roommate, my bud, we are pretty locked in on that show, and we are heavily invested. I've also been reading a lot recently, and yeah, everything has been pretty constant in my life in a good way. So I encourage everyone to let themselves think. Be silent in your actions, in your words. Even if it's just for a week, give it a try, you know? Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? How would you know until you try? That's all I gotta say. Goodbye.